not hurting someone's feelings or not making them feel bad. At the end of the day, the more clear we are with people, the more kind we are towards them. Because maybe it's something they didn't see. As a leader, it's important to spend time not just working in the business, but working on the business. And so spending a little bit of time working on the business and simply just thinking about where do we want to go and how are we going to get there?
And Harvard Business Review suggests that leaders in organizations spend 20% of their time a week. I know it's a lot. We don't have a lot of time these days. But 20% of time a week, like that's one day out of 5 business days. Yeah. You just worked on the business. You think about the vision and the strategies.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Hey, Don't Do That, where we explore the little things nobody tells you that have really big impacts on your motivation, effectiveness, and success.
Yes.
My name is Liz.
My name is Tree.
And today, it might be a little vague.
Okay.
Right? We might be a little vague. We're talking about people being vague. So, Tree, we've got a true-false, but it has a very clear-cut answer. If you were ever taken to court, true or false, you could use vagueness as a legal defense when you were looking, like if somebody said you didn't follow the bylaws here, you did. You could use vagueness as a legal defense.
True.
You're right. He's right every time on true-false questions.
I watched Scandal, which is a show on ABC a while back, and they used it all the time. It's like you don't have to say that you did it, but you can just say that you didn't do certain things. You can be vague about it.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can use it in like all scenarios, but if you're looking at certain cases, you can use vagueness as like a legal defense.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I was thinking about this topic, not because of going to court.
Yeah, I've been curious about why is this a topic that...
yeah, it had nothing to do with the true-false question. But one of the things that leaders have to do is create clarity for people.
Yeah.
Right? Like leaders have to say, here's the path, here's how we're going to get from A to Z. And I have been called a drive-by delegator. I've been accused of not always being the most clear, and just recently we've had several different things happen in our office where there were some changes, and so people were going into different spots and we were working on different types of projects.
Yes.
And I was sitting down with one of my mentors and just having this discussion of, well, here's what's changing and here's what I'm thinking of how I want to handle this. And they looked at me and they said, do you know where you're trying to go? Do you know how to get there? And I was like, yes. And they said, well, I haven't really heard you describe that. And I realized that I had it in my head, but I was so vague in putting it out there that they couldn't see it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if my mentor can't see it, there's no way that my whole team could see it. And so I thought to myself, oh my gosh, when you go talk to the team, don't be vague. Don't be vague in the things you're putting out there, because if you're vague, people can't see the path. They can't see your vision. Yeah,
absolutely. And especially when we're going through changes, right? That vagueness creates more uncertainty and more discomfort as the team is all trying to figure out what's going on. So being clear and over-communicate on your visions and what you're trying to work on and accomplish gives, a sense of ease and give us a sense of, okay, this is hard and we're going through things, but we can go through this because Liz has a strong vision for the team.
Yeah. So then I started reflecting on okay, well, why, not just me, but why are people vague sometimes? They won't give you a clear-cut answer.
Yeah.
And I think it's because in life, so many times, there's not a clear-cut answer. You might not know exactly what's going to happen in the next 3 months, maybe even in the next 3 days. And the last thing that people want is to say, oh, here's the direction. This is exactly what's going to happen. This is what I think about this. And then something changes. And it's like, oh my gosh, am I going to look like a liar? Am I going to look like I couldn't handle that or I didn't know? Mm-hmm. So I think it's easy for people to default to, well, it's going to be good. Things are going okay. We're going to figure it out. Because we can't tell the future. Mm-hmm. And it's uncomfortable having to make those decisions or having to say, here's the direction when it's all gray up ahead. It's not black or white.
Mm-hmm. And so there's a fear component. It's also, I don't want to make a fool out of myself for
100%
communicating this into something that doesn't happen. Being vague comes with a cost as well, right? There's different scenarios, different aspects of our life where being vague can hurt us. So I was listening to this episode on Spotify.
Okay.
And when it comes to marketing, and it talks about how a lot of small business owners and entrepreneurs, they're being vague about what they offer to the clients. Like if you go into some business coach website and like engage with me and you see amazing results, but I'm not saying like what are actually the things that you would deliver, but just like click on this, connect with me, your team would perform better and you get this deal. But like being vague like that doesn't provide people a sense of like, okay, so what is it that you're gonna be working with us? And it doesn't build your credibility. Instead, where this person can just say, hey, here are a few things that we can focus on when we're engaging in conversations. Provide just some. It doesn't have to be 5 pages of things that you can provide, but just some clarity. Imagine us working at Dale Carnegie and a client works with us, and you're like, oh, don't worry, it's going to be an amazing program. But they're like, what are you doing with this program? Yeah, oh, we're going to train your leaders. They'll be fine. Like, being vague makes people feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And they're not clear on what we're trying to accomplish. So providing clarity can help with businesses. Also, I'm thinking about when you're talking about being clear and unclear with vision, I think about New Year's resolutions.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, people set them all the time, right? But it's like, I want to be in better shape.
Yeah.
I want to be a better leader. Mm-hmm. It's like, how do you know if you actually accomplish that?
And the cost of us being vague on our New Year's resolutions is that only 9% of people actually complete their New Year's resolutions. Because, I want to be in better shape. What does it mean to be in better shape? And we don't set those clear goals for ourselves. So it costs us, not knowing exactly what we're in for and what we need to do to accomplish.
Yeah.
Being better shape.
Well, the more clear we are on what we want, on where we want to go. There's a guy by the name of Hal Elrod, and he says when we become committed to the why, the how will reveal itself. Mm-hmm. So if we can really figure out, this is why I'm doing this. This is my purpose. Here's my vision.
Yes.
All of a sudden, it becomes clear what we're supposed to do. But when that why is not clear, when the purpose is not clear, how we actually make those things happen is also really unclear. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And as a leader, right, we talked about the importance of as a leader, you have to be clear on where you want to go. You also have to be clear with everyone on your team, with everybody you work with, whether it's the people who report to you or even your peers, on where are they at in terms of where growth is. Whether it's working together on a project. I think of so many times when people maybe want to give someone hard feedback on a project, where in my opinion, something's not going well right now, but I'm going to be very vague and beat around the bush a little bit and be like, well, we're having a couple issues on the project, but we don't actually ever really address with clarity, okay, we know this is the goal, we know this is the challenge, but we're not even clear on what's the actual issue here. Because we don't want to hurt people's feelings.
Right. Yes. And one And that ties back to not being vague with your feedback, right? Both negative and positive. Instead of, oh, do better. Like, in what way? Like, how do I do better? Okay, just work harder. Like, what do you want me to do more specifically? And the specific feedback, instead of the vagueness, can help improve performance when you have that honest, specific conversations. As well as like, oh, Tree, great job. What are you praising me for? Like, what is the behaviors that you want me to repeat so that I can do more of it? So being specific and not being vague can help motivate people to perform better.
And I think it's sometimes we think of like, oh, it has to come from your boss or it has to be to the people who report to you. But being clear, if we really do have a clear goal of what success looks like, then we've got to be clear with how we're doing along the way. Kim Scott wrote the book Radical Candor. Several people have read Radical Candor and really like it, but in it, one of the things she says clear is kind, unclear is unkind.
Yes.
And so it's not about not hurting someone's feelings or not making them feel bad. At the end of the day, the more clear we are with people, the more kind we are towards them. Because maybe it's something they didn't see. And if we just vaguely say, well, I think there's a couple things you could do better.
Yeah.
Versus saying, hey, you've shown up late to the last 3 meetings that we were at. When you show up late, it puts everybody, behind. It might not feel great, but it's clear.
And being clear also helps you not hurt that person's feeling because you're being clear about the behavior. You're not, by being vague, you make them generalize about them as who they are. But by being clear about that specific behavior, then it's not going to be like a personal attack to who they are as a person. But like, okay, so let's just talk about this thing that I can change my behavior to improve. So being clear is kind because it's less personal. It's more like, how can I change my behavior to improve?
And same on the positive, right? We want to be clear with maybe the things that we aren't happy with, the things that aren't working, the challenges we're facing. And we want to be clear on what's going well. You mentioned, it's like, I don't know what to do more of, less of, or differently if you don't tell me.
Yep.
I can take some cues, but oh my gosh, it's a whole lot easier if someone will give me clear feedback on, hey, I loved when you did this. Awesome. Now I can go do it again. But if I don't know, maybe I will, maybe I won't.
Yeah. So what are some ways, and we already talked about some areas, what are some ways that we can be more clear and less vague as leaders, as individuals?
So we talked a lot about knowing the why or knowing the end goal. As a leader, it's important to spend time not just working in the business, but working on the business. And so spending a little bit of time working on the business and simply just thinking about where do we want to go and how are we going to get there? Whether you do that, I know we do several different things to help people cast a vision or to create goals. There's tons of books and different things out there, but spending the time to think. Like, just think. You don't have to act at that point. I forget who it was, but someone had said at one point, they were like, gosh, if you gave me an hour to solve a problem, I would spend the first, 55 minutes just identifying the problem and really figuring out what the problem was. It's like thinking about the issue. It's not just act. But one thing we as leaders have to do is we have to just think about where we're going and think about creating clarity and what that looks like.
Yeah.
If we can create that, if we have that really clear why, then we have to communicate that to everybody on our team. And then comes the really hard part of how do we give that feedback, right, along the way, whether it's positive or negative. We say all the time, like, only the prepared deserve to be confident.
Yes.
And so whether you're giving really good feedback, which sometimes is hard for people to give, right, to say, hey, this is what I loved about what you did. This is what really worked. it's also usually really hard for people to give that negative feedback or that critical feedback. So practicing it, getting comfortable saying, okay, did this sound clear when I said that? Or did it sound vague? Like, well, you did pretty good. I mean,
I even love the tone, the way you say it.
Pretty good.
Dale Carnegie says, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dale Carnegie says 1 hour of planning can save us 10 hours of doing, right? And that 1 hour we can spend on creating clarity, goes into our planning, and it helps drive performance, and it helps give clear sense of directions on where we're going. Before we jump in and be in the business, we can work on the business. And Harvard Business Review suggests that leaders in organizations spend 20% of their time a week. I know it's a lot, so we don't have a lot of time these days, but 20% of time a week, like that's 1 day out of 5 business days. You just worked on the business. You think about the vision and the strategies. For us, people who are not necessarily leading people right now, we're individual contributors. We can lead where we are by gaining clarity, by asking one simple question, especially when we're involving on a project, and we can ask, what does success look like? And I love this question that we ask clients, right? What does success look like? And it gives clarity right away on what are the things, the KPIs, the measures of success that I can look out for, because then that's the visions, those are the goals that I can strike for.
Yeah. And if you ask that question, what does success look like? And you think, I don't know. That's your clue.
Yeah.
It's too vague.
Yes.
Right now. And so spend the time to sit and think. Now, it doesn't mean you can't change the goal or change the target, but the more clear we are, then when things change, we can say, and here's why. We were going down this path. Here's what we thought was going to happen. Here's what we were expecting. It didn't quite work that way. And so here's why we're pivoting and going in the other direction.
Yes.
It creates more confidence in the people that you're leading or that you're working with too.
Yes, absolutely. And even for those of us who are just individual contributors, it shows leadership skills, right? Because now Tree's not coming in just executing and do what he's told, but if he can think and he can see the big picture, and that's what leaders look for in their employees, the ability to think big pictures instead of just, going at it blindly and mindlessly.
Yeah, if you go to a boss and your boss says, hey, how is this project going? Where are we at on this project? And you give the response, oh, it's fine. Everything's moving. And they say, well, what do you need help with? Nothing really. It's all going. If there's no clear, everything's just okay, and there's a couple challenges or not going well, the more clear we can be, especially like with your boss and the people that you report to, the more likely they are to see you as a leader.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to be very clear.
I don't know if clarity is going to help me with trivia today.
Well, I'm going to be very clear on these answers. Okay, so we have, we're talking about vague today. So we've got some questions that have to do with maybe things that are either vague or the opposite of vague. Very, clear. Not vague. Clear. Yeah, that would be the opposite. So you are going to have about 30 seconds.
Okay.
This first question makes me laugh.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. And I won't start the timer until after the first question because it's kind of a long one. The lyrics from Starship's "We Built This City" are commonly misheard as "We built this city on sausage rolls." What are the correct lyrics?
Starship from Nicki Minaj?
No, Tree, that's the band's. Oh my gosh, I didn't even start the timer yet. There's a song called "We Built This City," and the lyrics are often misheard as "We built this city on sausage rolls." What are the correct lyrics?
We built this city on... No idea.
Okay, what term represents the precise number of digits used in calculated scientific data?
Say that one more time.
Okay, we're just not going to time you on this trivia tree because this is taking longer than 3 seconds. What term represents the precise number of digits used to express a calculated quantity in scientific data?
No idea.
Okay, in October of 2012, what was the name of the superstorm that seriously damaged coastal New Jersey and New York City after it was accurately predicted but confusingly misclassified? Okay, what is the term for a romantic relationship that is not quite a full-on relationship?
Oh, shoot. An open relationship?
No. What is the tagline used by a camera company in the 90s to describe a moment worth photographing?
Oh my god.
Okay, Tree, this trivia did not go well for you today.
I got 0.
You very clearly got 0 out of 5 today. All right.
Those are hard.
Those were hard. So the song "We Built This City," the lyrics are misheard as "We built this city on sausage rolls." The correct lyrics are "We built this city on rock and roll." We built this city. You don't know it? We built this city on rock and roll. You've never heard it? Okay, well, maybe my singing is not that great, but it's a very popular song. Okay. The term that represents the precise number of digits used to express a calculated quantity in scientific data is significant figures. I remember learning about those in high school, but that's about it. Yeah, significant figures. Okay. The superstorm that seriously damaged coastal New Jersey and New York City in 2012 was Superstorm Sandy.
Oh.
Yeah, Superstorm Sandy.
I know that, but I just didn't remember.
Okay, the fourth question. Oh, the term for a romantic relationship that's not quite a full-on relationship. This is a new popular word. It's called a situationship.
Oh.
Have you heard it?
Yes.
Apparently Gen Z is they're called situationships. Like it's not a full-on relationship.
You're being vague about.
Yeah, like we're not fully in a relationship, but it's called a situationship. And then the last question, the tagline used by the camera company in the 90s to describe a moment worth photographing. It's called a Kodak moment.
A Kodak moment.
A Kodak moment. Tree, I hate to break it to you, this was not your best episode of trivia. I will be very clear.
Trivia.
Yeah, it will be very clear that you did not do well.
Nope.
And the good news is we have more episodes that you and I are planning to shoot, and so you have a chance to redeem yourself.
Thank you for not being vague on your feedback and for being clear on how far I have failed on this trivia.
We'll get some clear feedback to me, too, on those trivia questions were too hard. Well, if anything that you take away from this, besides our trivia answers today, don't forget to be clear, right? Create clarity. Don't be vague in situations, because the more clear we are, the more kind we are.
Yes.
We will see you next time on another episode of Hey, Don't Do That. Bye, everybody.